Hello everyone, welcome to EARTO Annual Conference 2021. So glad to have you here. We had to cancel last year, but this year, luckily we are all virtual and many of you are following us today, so glad about this. You know, today we're going to discuss about technology, of course, but you know, we have spring in the air here on set, so I hope that reaches you also wherever you're located today. We had tough time. COVID bring us quite a year and a very special year. But something that came out so vividly is the importance of technology. And I think we will see through the discussion today how that brought us quite some exciting time also. So, in an unexpected way also, COVID showed us that the potential of RTOs. And I think we have unleashed an impact that will not be hidden anymore. So we will discuss that also with all our speakers. We will discuss technologies. We will discuss the future of economic recovery. We will also discuss sustainable and resilient way of doing so. We will also want to hear from you. So we have Slido today. So please do and ask all the questions you have. We will do our best to answer those ones with the time we have. So I would like to start. So let's launch our first speaker, who is with us today. So Maive, I'm so happy to have you with us. Maive Rute is the Deputy Director General of the DG GROW of European Commission. She is responsible for industrial policy, so it's going to be an exciting time to hear from Maive all the new things coming up. So Maive, the floor is yours. So happy to have us with you.
Good morning. Thanks a lot, Muriel, for giving me the opportunity to open this very important event today. Dear Minister Heitor, members of Parliament, Commissioner Gabriel, dear President Vasara, EARTO members, of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's about a year ago that Commission adopted a new industrial strategy. And as you know, this strategy is there to help Europe's industry lead the green and digital transformations while also strengthening our global competitiveness and building strategic autonomy. And over the past year, we have made significant progress. We kept reinforcing our single market, despite of the difficulties that we have faced now on the COVID times. We kept striving for a level playing field, for instance, with our white paper on foreign subsidies that is looking into really essential issues of keeping the playing field really level. We have delivered on several building blocks that are crucial for our green transition, such as new circular economy action plan, clean energy strategy, hydrogen strategy, also, of course, an innovation wave. All these are important building blocks. But certainly, the year which we have behind us has not been as any other year we remember in the recent past. This has been really a year of fundamental rethink of how our economy operates, how our societies function. And we see that beside of the COVID direct impact on our economies and our societies, we also are living at kind of a time of shifting paradigm. We see the global geopolitical weight being shifted. We see Asia, particularly, of course, China, really rapidly growing in their weight and importance. And of course, not to forget also that until quite recently, the relations with the US have also been different. So on all these backgrounds, we see that there has been a very good reason why Commission President has asked us to take a fresh look at our industry strategy. So while we keep our 2020 strategy fully intact, we are now working on an update. And the update will be very much looking into this paradigm shift as well, and looking into how we can better accompany this acceleration and these transitions which we witness. And also Commission, as you know, has actually increased our ambition, particularly in the field of climate targets, the new target being 55% cut. So by 2030, and this is a serious and important target to try to strive towards. And the COVID has, of course, also accelerated the transition towards digitalized Europe. So this type of transitions we now see have to be better reflected also in our policies. So we believe that this is now really time for us to become very concrete on how the decarbonization, digitalization will actually happen. And therefore, I'm very glad to be the speaker today, because we believe that the research and technology organizations are going to be really important in supporting these transitions and also supporting us in the policy design. Of course, we already know some of the critical enablers for the twin transition. Let me first mention the availability of raw materials, which is a prerequisite for the development of strategic sectors such as renewable energy, electric mobility, digital technologies. Our new raw materials alliance will help us diversify our supply chains and invest in technologies that address circularity in resource use, waste processing, and not to forget also invest in really this supply chain transparency, traceability. These are issues that shouldn't kind of be lost from our radar screen. Secondly, we also see, of course, the access to affordable and decarbonized energy really as critical. And according to Renewable Energy Agency, we have in Europe a current annual investment gap in renewables in the magnitude of 34 billion euros. So each year we seem to be falling short in the magnitude of 34 billion euros if we really want to meet 2050 climate targets. And these are important, really, numbers. We also look in the Commission, of course, in the RRF, so the Recovery and Resilience Facility. We look at the national plans that are coming in. And although the member states have foreseen investments towards climate targets, I'm afraid that the ambition is not high enough to really get us to the trajectory which is needed. And therefore, one of my pleas today to all of these people available here or watching our sessions is to really think how to make these targets more tangible by building these project pipelines and the investment pipelines that would be very much needed. And then a further element, of course, in this kind of landscape is research and innovation itself that has a key role to play in developing the technologies and infrastructures that can boost, for example, I'm sorry, but the phone is ringing, which should not be happening. That can boost the demand for renewable hydrogen in the steel or chemical sectors, or the integration of renewables and electrification in energy-intensive industries. So we have a panel today to discuss these issues, and we see that this setup of the meetings today has been really very well thought through. I see several of our key issues very nicely covered in the agenda. Another element, of course, for us is the element that has come up forward very strongly with the COVID crisis now, the strategic autonomy, which the need for more strategic autonomy has become, I think, more visible, particularly due to the difficulties faced now on the COVID, where our usual supply chains have not always functioned the way we want them to function. And we see that also on the global scale of things changing. Europe needs to maintain our open attitudes and open trade, but at the same time also become more assertive in this global changing environment. And we need to be also able to better identify the vulnerabilities and strategic dependencies, particularly those that are directly linked to our capacity to deliver on twin transition targets. And for this, we need to better understand what really is underneath and how can we consider addressing these vulnerabilities or shortcomings. The one angle is trade-related issues that I mentioned already. We have seen the shortages, be it in the personal protective equipment or other things. And the other end of it is the competitiveness angle, where we see the need to keep up in various advanced technologies. Let me just point the recent shortage of semiconductors, which is, I think, a very clear example in this regard, where the production is strongly concentrated in Asia. The US has also a share, but the EU has currently little production capacity for the most advanced chips. And the current shortage of semiconductors is slowing down our recovery in key economic sectors such as automotive, for example. And we believe that issues like that have to be addressed. And that is why the Commission has proposed that by 2030, the production of cutting-edge and sustainable semiconductors in Europe, including processors, should be at least 20% of world production in value. So we need to be remaining vigilant and identify such possible future issues or areas where our capacities have to be built. And we will not be doing it alone. Certainly in the Commission, we see that EARTOs have a role to play, and industry, of course, as well, to keep an eye on these developments and help also better policies to be shaped. Another key element that I want to underline in this regard is really this balance between, let's say, cooperation and competition. And this again is one of the themes also discussed today in the conference. We see it from this co-design angle and cooperation angle. We see this also as a key element in our industry policy. It has been already highlighted in the March 2020, last year's package, which we now implement. And one example is the recently established Industrial Forum, which brings together member states, industrial stakeholders, including also EARTO's president, Antti, Vasara, trade unions, civil society, regions, clusters. And this, we believe, will be a way for us to really be well informed about what is going on and to shape our policies accordingly. So we also will continue to promote creation of joint initiatives such as industrial alliances, which bring together investors, governmental, institutional, industrial partners in key technologies and business areas. And we, again, can give an example here where this already is bringing great progress, such as Battery Alliance is a good example of cooperation happening along the value chain, and where also RTOs from various member states are included. So we will continue working closely with member states to accelerate also coordinated kind of actions towards large-scale investment projects, such as important projects of common European interest, so-called IPCIs, in strategic areas such as hydrogen technologies, cloud computing, data infrastructure, or microelectronics. So these are areas where, of course, research and innovation will be very key. And for industrial technologies to go ahead, again, the people in the conference today will have an essential role to play. We see this indeed as quite should I say, the time has come to really take concrete actions. And the global race on technologies is not getting any slower. It is rather speeding up. And we see that EU private R&D investments are not necessarily keeping up. In the area of ICT services, it's only 13% of what we can see in the US. And recently also China has overtaken us. So we see more attention needed for these investments. And in this regard, Horizon Europe, of course, is essential source of investments into green and digital transformation. And we hope that we will hear from Commissioner Gabriel good news in this regard. And maybe just one final example from my side. If you look at energy-intensive industries, we see that this is a case where many of these transformations have to happen. The decarbonization as well as digitalization to really support the transition. Development of new products in this field. And we know that for R&I needs, it's huge. It's about 30 billion euros by 2050. And that is why, of course, Horizon Europe will spend quite important amounts on climate objectives as well as digital objectives. And we will continue working with our colleagues in the research department in the Commission and also try and use the R&I partnerships which have been set up and which will be also the case under Horizon Europe to enable synergies between our work, the work at the member states and regional levels, and of course, having a good platform for working with industries. So thank you for your attention, and if there are some questions, I will be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maive. Much appreciated. I think you said so many things we would like to pick up between industrial alliances, all the different topics. Maybe HOK and EARTO's foresight capabilities in technology will also help you to define some of the technologies that need to be invested in. But I have one question from Slido, and I think this one is worth taking a little bit of time, is on the synergy between research policy and the industrial policy. We have these industrial alliances that will, of course, be supported by Horizon Europe program coming. How do you see that working, and do you have views on this?
I'm very much hoping to actually benefit from the Horizon Europe partnerships. And you know that our research colleagues have announced also technology roadmaps under the European research area, for example. And this will be work that would very nicely feed into what we would like to do under the industry policy. Namely, we would like to have concrete transformation pathways described for the decarbonization and the digitalization of industries. And we will look at it through the ecosystem, so industrial ecosystems angle, meaning that it's not going to be just one size fits all, but really diversified depending on the circumstances of the industrial sectors or ecosystems if we take a broader look at things.
Thank you very much, Maive, for such an insight. I think you can count on the EARTO's to support your activities, and of course the different industries which are at hand now. And I think we are very supportive of the activities. And I'm sure we come back to Antti later on with the Industrial Forum. You know that you have EARTO supports also there. So thanks again. Much appreciated you take the time for us.
Thank you.
So let's move to our second speaker. We are so glad to have a video address of Commissioner Gabriel. Commissioner Gabriel is responsible for research, innovation, culture, education and youth at the European Commission. So let's watch the video.
Dear President Vasara, dear EARTO members, dear guests, thank you very much for the invitation to speak at your annual conference today. I'm pleased to come to you in a timely moment for Europe as we mark the launch of Horizon Europe for the period 21-27. The negotiations for the program have taken place in difficult conditions, with more uncertainties than usual, arising from the COVID-19 pandemic and Brexit. Despite these difficulties, we have listened to the call of the stakeholders and have reinforced the program's budget to 95.5 billion euros. This significant increase, 30% in budget and ambition, provides a clear political message. Europe is committed to investing in science, technology and innovation. The past year has clearly showed the importance of investing in research and innovation. Thanks to these investments and the commitment of our researchers, We were able to deliver in record time on vaccines and other solutions to respond to the pandemic. But the crisis is not over. We have to continue our efforts. This is why last month I have announced that additional 120 million euros from new Horizon Europe program will be mobilized to continue our response to the risk posed by the virus. Substantial investments in innovation are also needed to accelerate the green and digital transitions. Horizon Europe has been designed with these challenges in mind. We have simplified the public-private partnerships landscape to better align strategic research and innovation agendas with universities, RTOs, and industry. EARTO members' know-how and world-class infrastructures make a crucial contribution to the success of our partnerships. Horizon Europe will also include a new impact-driven instrument, the missions. The missions will mobilize researchers, innovators, public authorities, and citizens towards a common strategy. We are now preparing the implementation plans for these missions, defining the concrete actions and deliverables. The results of this work will be reflected in a communication expected in the summer. The transformation of Europe's society and economy also requires some prioritization of research and innovation investments at both national and European level. We need a clear direction. The new European research area includes specific actions to drive this prioritization. It develops a policy approach to valorize research results and to establish common industrial technology roadmaps. These are new tools to support research and innovation agendas and leverage private efforts in areas that are crucial for Europe. Together with member states, research and technology organizations, and industry, will work on preparing pathways for the next generation of technologies and accelerating commercial application. To contribute to this goal, the Horizon Europe's third pillar has been designed to support the new wave of innovation led by innovative startups, following an ecosystems approach. We know of the important contribution of EARTO members to create and support scaling up of deep tech startups. We need to create the right conditions for these companies to succeed and create vibrant innovation ecosystems in Europe. This is one of the main tasks of the European Innovation Council. Under Horizon Europe, the European Innovation Council will continue to provide guidance and access to blended finance to startups. We are glad that EARTO members have taken part in the EIC pilot, and we hope this will also be the case under Horizon Europe. Stimulating Europeans' most talented entrepreneurs to become global leaders will be one of the main priorities of my new initiative, the European Innovation Area. With this initiative, I want to provide a common vision for innovation, a compass to guide the numerous innovation activities across Europe and encourage new European innovation champions. I would like to invite EARTO members to contribute to the design of the European Innovation Area and gather forces to develop new solutions needed for a green, digital, and resilient society. I thank the members for their active participation in the program and EARTO for the good collaboration. I wish a successful event.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Gabriel. I think we can only appreciate your words of support. And of course, EARTO members are surely looking forward to further collaborate with your services on so many of these key issues you mentioned: partnerships, missions, the Horizon Europe implementation. So I think also on the ERA action plans we will be there. So thanks again to Commissioner Gabriel for our kind words. And now let's be joined by EARTO President, Antti Vasara, who is also the CEO of VTT, the largest RTO in Finland. Good morning, Antti.
Good morning, Muriel, and welcome from Helsinki.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So it has been a crazy year. I think I don't have any other adjective to say how this was. So 1 year ago, you and I were discussing, okay, we can't have a virtual event in so short notice, so we canceled last year. So I'm so glad to still this year being able to discuss. But what's your take on that crazy year?
Yeah, what a year it has been. And how quickly things can change when a crisis hits. So we responded very quickly. And I think that Europe has been lucky to have RTOs. RTOs have capabilities that have been crucial in managing the crisis as best as possible as well. The RTO labs managed to stay open despite the pandemic, and we could contribute by testing masks, creating respirators, developing treatment vaccines, all these kinds of things. And all of this while at the same time still trying to keep RTO's own operations functioning also on all other research areas. One thing that I was really happy to see was that how well our members organized around the EARTO task force on COVID-19, and you were, of course, Muriel, involved in that. So what impressions did you get from that work?
I think it has been a crazy time. We saw, I think, the incredible momentum that RTOs were able to pull together in a very short time. And being very creative to looking at very acute problems, and slowly we are now shifting probably to more economic recovery. But in the acute phase, I thought, we were the secret power of Europe. That was the RTOs with their collaborative capabilities. So I was very proud to actually represent such a group of RTOs. But we had many discussions in the EARTO board also. How did we shift now from acute crisis management, let's say last year, to now more turning to how do we support the economic recovery? What was your take on those discussions? Because we had very different national situations to being presented.
Yeah, there's a lot of recovery to be done, and kind of we see that vaccines will help us get rid of the pandemic COVID-19, but then we need to recover from the economic crisis that has come, and for the economic recovery, the vaccine is research and innovation. We know that national recovery and resilience plans are being developed in the member states, and we have heard in our own EARTO board discussions that how much also EARTO members all over Europe are heavily working with their respective ministries to ensure that the right investments are being planned, and of course also the right investments into RD&I. And if we really want to ensure that investment into resilience and technological sovereignty and these types of things, kind of building for the future, we also need the right investments into key technologies to be made now. But of course, simply pulling money together is not enough. Investments need to be strategically set on R&I that supports then green transition and digital transition.
I hear you. So really, indeed, that investing in science and technology will probably be the best form of recovery, in fact, and probably of resilience also after the recovery. So keeping up also in terms of what we can do in Europe. But before we go back to the strategic and what those investments should be in the strategic investments part, like what discussed with Maive just before, I would like to go back on the year's work of EARTO looking at European budget. We have worked more than many years now on planning the new programming period that comes up with a new RDI investments, let's say, in the different programs. And what do you think of these final results?
I think Commissioner Gabriel already expressed quite well the outcome, and I think that the outcome of the EU budget discussions in the end was very positive for applied research. EARTO also managed, with the support of our industrial partners, to boost Horizon Europe budget in the last stretch of the budget negotiations. I think that in the last minutes there was the top-up that came, which was mainly focused on applied research, roughly 5 billion euros from the Next Generation EU, and close to 5 billion under the EP negotiated complement. So in that sense, that I think that we can be very happy that Europe is definitely investing in the future. And we have a good budget for collaborative R&I in Horizon Europe. Roughly 56% of the total budget is going to Pillar 2, which is also really important from the industry's point of view. And then there's also a set of new EU programs with R&I components, Digital Europe, the defense program, space, health programs, structural funds even. So now the next challenge is then that we use the EU funds in a smart combination with the national recovery plans to really target now the twin transition.
So I hear you, quite a lot of strategic RDI investments which are needed for our technology sovereignty and for the twin transition. So I think one of the issues will also be combining the different funds we have from the Europe national and regional side. So quite a difficult challenge now to make a strong coherent package with all those RDI investments. So. But looking at where should we, direct those investments, and you are now quite active in the Industrial Forum, we just started this year. So what do you think this forum will do, and which direction does it take? We hear a little bit of information from Maive, but it will be nice to have your thoughts on that.
Yes, I think that the Industrial Forum is playing a crucial role in supporting and challenging the Commission on how to implement the industrial strategy in the best possible way, and also while implementing, learning what works and what doesn't work. And in that way, it's supposed to be a collaborative learning process. I think that the remit overall with the industrial strategy is extremely broad, and I think that we in the EARTO community, we can contribute a lot by linking the sound strategies from the R&I side then together with the industrial policy, and they're heavily interlinked. And there are of course now good EU instruments for doing that. We have the EU partnerships under Horizon Europe, we have the EU industrial alliances, and like Maive mentioned, for example, the IPCEIs. And now target should be that together we can create extremely effective industrial innovation ecosystems that help sustainable growth, help us be technologically sovereign, build the resilience. And that's where we of course need the RDI hubs, we need the RTOs, universities, companies. So all is needed, but it's also important then to see that what's coming out of the new ERA Transition Forum Pact for R&I and the European technology roadmaps that were also announced.
Yeah, I hear you. I think it would be very interesting to see the link between, the industrial policy on one side and the RDI policy, and what happens in the ERA different actions that were set in the last communication from Commissioner Gabriel. So maybe looking at one of the ERA actions, one of them is about developing a new European strategy on technology infrastructure. What's your opinion on such strategy?
I think overall, if we look at the need, I think that scale-up has been Europe's Achilles heel on R&I side. And if we can, and hopefully when we strengthen Europe's ability to utilize technology infrastructures, this will be one key remedy then to scale up. Technology infrastructures require a huge amount of skills to build them, operate them, and knowledge how to do that. And most companies just can't afford to do that on their own. And there comes then into the picture RTOs. We have taken the role of managing those complex infrastructures and providing access then to a wide variety of public and private users. And now we have large and small companies depending on our infrastructures to access both technology, but also utilize it for scale up to be competitive. And there is now critical momentum for Europe and together with the member states to be more ambitious, and investing in the technology infrastructure in a much more bolder and ambitious way should be part of that. So, and we have a session on that later today, so I'm looking forward to that discussion, but of course, overall on the discussion today, really interesting topics.
Thank you very much, Antti, for sharing your vision with us. We come back to you later for the closing of the event to take your takes on today's discussion. So keep with us.